There's something about headlights on a dark country road that feels like a confession. Not the kind you whisper in a church pew or mutter to your best friend after too many beers. I'm talking about the kind of confession that comes from somewhere deeper. Somewhere you don't know how to name. That's how I felt tonight, behind the wheel of my delivery van. Just me, Route 87, and an AM radio station too weak to commit to a single song. Static hummed in and out, stitching fragments of old rock ballads into a kind of ghostly lullaby. Sometimes it was Boston, sometimes it was silence, and in between, just the road. My name's Daniel, 32, 4 months out from a breakup that split my world in half like a busted taillight. Emma and I were together 7 years. No fights, no betrayal, just the slow rot of two people drifting. I still check my phone sometimes, even though she blocked me. I still expect to see her name when a notification pops up. Instead, it's just the Walmart delivery app telling me I've got one more drop before I clock out. Tonight's route cut deep through the hills, where streetlights forget to exist. Past farms older than memory, through fields wide and silent as sleep. The kind of places where porch lights are more reliable than GPS, and the sky's so black it swallows your thoughts if you stare too long. I was grateful for the quiet, mostly. It let me drive without thinking, which was the only way I got through these nights anymore. The motion soothed me. Forward was all that mattered. The farmhouse came into view like a dream finally taking shape. White paint peeling under moonlight, a porch sagging with the weight of years. I parked by the gate and stepped out. Gravel crunched beneath my boots like dry bones. As I carried the bags to the door, a song floated in from the van's radio. At first I didn't register it. Then it hit. Fleetwood Mac. Dreams. Our song. I stopped, dead still on the front steps, groceries in hand, staring at the door like it had just whispered her name. Emma used to hum that chorus while brushing her teeth, used to sing it off key in the kitchen while making coffee too early. The memory gripped my chest, hollowed me out from the inside. I shook it off, left the bags by the screen door, knocked twice and turned to go. That's when I saw it. Across the field by the tree line, a shape. Thin. Human. Maybe. A figure standing just outside the reach of the moonlight, too still for comfort. My breath caught. I blinked. Gone. Just like that. Nothing there but wind rustling through the corn stalks and the distant bark of a dog that didn't sound happy to be alive. I stood there a moment longer than I should have, heart pounding loud enough to hear. Then I climbed into the van, locked the doors, and drove. Didn't look back. Didn't want to. Because something about that silhouette, it wasn't just familiar, it wasn't just human. For one split, moonlit second, it looked like Emma. And I know she doesn't live out here. I know she's 300 miles away, probably asleep, probably forgetting me. So why did I feel like she was waiting for me out in those fields? Why did I feel like I'd already seen her once tonight? But not for the last time. The next night I told myself I was just tired. Too many shifts, not enough sleep. Maybe I'd caught a reflection in the glass, or the shadows were playing tricks. It happens, especially when you're carrying ghosts in the passenger seat. But I kept glancing toward the edge of every road, every tree line. I didn't want to admit I was hoping to see her again, or whatever it was I thought I saw. Emma, or the shape of her. I hated myself for that. Delivery routes change every night, unless you're a senior driver. I wasn't. So when I got the evening manifest, I didn't think much of it. Backroads, out near Hollow Pine. Real nowhere territory. Dirt lanes and forgotten signage. The kind of place where signal bars go to die. The sun had already dipped low by the time I turned off the main highway. The sky bled orange and purple, draining into black. My last drop was a cottage tucked beyond a crooked fence and a half-collapsed mailbox. Address, 118 Black Hollow Road. The place looked like it had been peeled out of another century. Narrow chimney, warped shingles, windows glowing with flickering candlelight. The porch sagged like it had knees. I killed the engine. My van ticked in the silence. No music, no wind. Just that kind of hush you get when the world's holding its breath. I grabbed the bags and walked up, knocked twice. The door creaked open almost immediately. The woman who answered looked wrong. Not in a monstrous way, just out of place. She wore a long gray dress that could have belonged to someone in a daguerreotype. Her white hair was coiled into a tight bun, and her eyes, God, her eyes never quite found mine. They hovered just to the left of my face as if afraid to meet the truth. "Evening," she said, voice like cracked bone. "Delivery for Ms. Harrow?" She nodded, slowly. "Leave them inside." I froze. Company policy is clear. We never go in. Liability, safety. But it wasn't just that. A pressure built in my chest, an instinct deeper than rules. "I'm afraid I can't," I said. "I'm only allowed to drop at the threshold." She didn't argue, just stared, past me, again, and stepped aside without a word. I placed the bags neatly at the edge of the threshold. That's when I saw the pictures on the wall behind her. Dozens of framed photos in tarnished brass. All of them the same woman. Her, identical in face and posture. The only difference was the background. Sometimes a black and white parlor, sometimes a sun-bleached field, sometimes a post-war diner. But always her, never older, never younger. The same expression in every shot. My spine prickled. "You live here alone?" I asked before I could stop myself. She smiled, and for the first time her eyes met mine. "We all do out here." I forced a polite nod, turned and walked, too quickly, back to the van. As I slid behind the wheel, I hesitated. That same electric cold prickled the back of my neck. I checked the rear view mirror. The road was empty, the cottage still behind me, and standing under the broken street lamp, just barely visible in the spill of moonlight, was the silhouette. I stared. It didn't move. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Gone. I threw the van into drive, heart hammering. Didn't breathe right until I hit pavement again. But the question kept twisting in my head. What if it wasn't the same silhouette from last night? What if it never moved because it didn't need to? What if it was always standing there waiting for me to see it again? That night, sleep came like falling through thin ice. I remember crawling into bed with the radio still playing from the kitchen, low and tinny. Some old classic rock station with more static than song. I didn't even get under the blanket. Just collapsed sideways across the mattress, boots still on, and then I was back in the van. The dream felt wrong. Not vivid, not hazy, just wrong. Like someone else's memory replaying on a warped VHS tape. I was on a narrow road that looped in on itself. I kept turning left, left, expecting to break the cycle. But every bend brought me back to the same intersection. The same crooked road sign that read "Fallow End" in letters half swallowed by moss. The van was full of groceries, but when I opened the rear doors, everything inside was rotted. Mold black apples, milk cartons bloated and leaking, a head of lettuce that crawled with pale, blind worms, and beneath it all, something glinting in the wetness. Emma's necklace, the silver locket I gave her on our 3rd anniversary, lying in a pool of spoiled eggs. Then the laughter started, distant, high and breathy. It echoed through the trees, looping with the curve of the road. I turned in the dream, trying to follow it, but the road just kept winding, doubling back, eating itself. When I woke, my sheets were twisted around my legs like restraints. My skin was clammy, shirt soaked through. I reached for my phone, 3:33 a.m. Of course. I hated that hour. The dark between dark. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Just lay there, eyes locked on the ceiling, heart ticking like a metronome wound too tight. The morning shift came too fast. I stumbled into clothes, half aware, and drove to the depot with that sick, dragged-down feeling. Like my body was here, but something important hadn't caught up. The day's first delivery was easy enough, but by noon, the hallucinations, or whatever they were, started again. First it was the radio. I wasn't even listening closely, just background noise to keep my brain from chewing itself. Then the song switched mid-verse. No static, no DJ, just an abrupt shift to Emma's voice whispering, "Daniel, stop. You're going the wrong way." I slammed the brakes, pulled over hard, chest heaving. But when I rewound the channel, it was just some overplayed ballad from the 80s. No whisper, no Emma. I laughed it off, or tried to. Kept telling myself it was exhaustion, nothing more. Stress can do that, right? By the third stop, things got worse. I was driving down an unpaved road near Wilmer's Crossing when I noticed the trees weren't changing. Same crooked limbs, same leaning fence post, same patch of wildflowers. I frowned, checked the GPS. It still said I was 2 minutes from my next drop. But then I blinked, and I was parked. Just there, engine idling. No memory of the last 5 minutes. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I checked the delivery screen. It was marked complete. I don't remember ringing a bell. Don't remember carrying a single bag. Just a blank in my mind, like someone cut a scene from the reel. The worst part? There was a smear of mud on my driver's side door. A handprint. Not mine. Too small. Too pale. I didn't report it. I didn't tell my supervisor. What would I even say? Hey, I think a ghost is hijacking my route? Instead, I drove on, finished the shift in a fog, each customer blurred into the next, faces without names, names without voices. I started counting deliveries not by address, but by how many times I looked over my shoulder. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex, the sun was already fading, smeared low against the horizon. I killed the engine and sat there in the silence. The world didn't feel entirely real anymore, or maybe I didn't. The last thing I did before going inside was check the back of the van. Nothing. No groceries, no locket. But there was dirt on the floor, a trail of it, leading from the inside corner to the rear doors, like something had been in there with me and left before I woke up. The trail of dirt in the van was still on my mind the next evening when thunder rolled in like a slow, gathering threat. The sky was low and leaden, the kind that presses on your skull until your thoughts feel heavy. I hadn't slept. Not really. Just drifted in and out of shallow, static-laced dreams where doors never opened and roads led nowhere. My supervisor handed me the scanner and frowned. "Storm's messing with the signal. Stick to the route. Don't improvise. And if anything feels off, skip it. Skip it." Like these places were suggestions, not real people waiting for milk and bread. Like the wrong turn could open a door to somewhere worse than bad service ratings. I nodded, didn't say anything. Rain started as I passed the last gas station on the edge of town. It was light at first, but by the time I reached the back roads, it had thickened into sheets. My wipers struggled to keep up. The van's headlights tunneled forward, cutting through fog that clung low like something living. I was 3 deliveries in when I hit the old farmhouse on Wren Hollow Road. The house was dark, no porch light, prepaid order, drop and go. But as I stepped out into the storm, something prickled at the base of my skull, that same cold awareness. I set the bags down on the covered porch and turned to leave, and I heard it. "Daniel." A whisper, not loud, not aggressive, just close. I froze. Rain pelted the back of my neck. The whisper had come from the shadows behind the porch swing. I turned slowly, peering into the gloom. Nothing there, but then it came again, softer this time, like it was brushing past my ear. "Daniel, come inside." I stepped back, nearly tripping over the groceries. "Who's there?" My voice came out hoarse. thin against the thunder. Silence, just the patter of rain and a creak of the porch boards, like someone shifting their weight. But when I aimed my flashlight toward the swing, it was still. Perfectly still. I didn't wait for a third whisper. I bolted for the van, slammed the door, and jammed the key into the ignition. The engine coughed once, then roared to life. I threw it into reverse. That's when lightning struck. For a split second, the entire yard lit up like a flashbulb. And there, just past the edge of the property, between two cypress trees, stood the silhouette again. Closer now, clearer. It had arms, legs, the outline of a face. But where its eyes should be, there was just shadow. Or maybe they were open. Maybe they were looking at me. I peeled out so fast I nearly lost control on the wet road. My knuckles went white on the wheel, heart thudding like it wanted out of my chest. I didn't stop, didn't think. I just drove. But the storm didn't let up. Half the county had lost power. GPS flickered in and out, the map lagging behind like it was unsure where I was. The rain blurred the roads until every turn looked wrong. The landmarks I knew, barns, silos, even that gas station sign with the flickering R, were gone. And the route home? It kept extending. 10 minutes became 30, then an hour. I kept checking the clock, watching it tick forward with no progress on the map. Every turn brought me back to the same muddy fork, the same crooked mailbox I was sure I'd passed before. I turned the radio on. Static. Then voices. Too many. Talking over each other. Whispers and weeping and low guttural murmurs that rose and fell like a fever dream. I switched it off. Still heard them. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers cramped. Rain lashed the windshield, lightning flashing just often enough to keep me aware of how deep the dark had gotten. It wasn't just a storm. It was something else. Something trying to keep me out there. Emma used to tease me about these night shifts. One day you'll disappear into those hills and they won't even miss you till the yogurt expires. It was supposed to be a joke, but now it felt like prophecy. When I finally found a paved road that didn't loop, I didn't check the map. I didn't question it. I just followed it until the fog lifted and the lights of town emerged like an old, forgotten dream. But the fear didn't leave me. Not even when I got home. Not even when I locked the door and pulled the curtains tight. Because part of me knew something had followed. And worse, part of me knew it was still out there, waiting for the road to disappear again. I almost didn't go into work the next day. My hands shook just brushing my teeth. I stared too long in the mirror, waiting for my reflection to blink first. But the van keys were already in my pocket, like I'd decided before I woke up. There was no forecast of rain, but the clouds loomed regardless, gray, swollen, heavy. The dispatcher didn't say much, just handed me the scanner with a dry, "Stay safe out there." The first few stops were quiet. Too quiet. Customers barely looked at me. Doors opened just wide enough for hands to take bags. No chatter, no eye contact. The silence followed me from each porch to the next like a loyal stray. Then came the last delivery. I didn't notice anything wrong until I saw the address. It wasn't on the original manifest. Just appeared. 2133 Winter Bell Lane. I tapped the scanner. The app didn't glitch. The order was marked as priority. Instructions: leave at door if no answer. I checked the map. The road wasn't familiar. It branched off from a route I'd driven a dozen times before, but I couldn't recall ever seeing the turn. Still, I went. Part of me wanted answers. Part of me didn't believe I had a choice anymore. The road narrowed fast, first paved, then gravel, then dirt. Trees closed in like ribs around a spine. It was all too quiet. No birds, no bugs, just the groan of tires on packed earth. I passed the same leaning scarecrow 3 times, Swear to God it had the same hat, same slumped posture, same stitched smile that looked wider each time. Finally, the trees broke, revealing a clearing and a house that shouldn't have been there. 2 stories, boarded windows, chimney cracked and crumbling. The paint had long since peeled off, leaving gray bones exposed to the wind. A mailbox out front leaned sideways, nameplate rusted over. I checked the scanner again, still flashing, 2133 Winterbell Lane. I stepped out. The air was wrong, too still. Even my footsteps on the porch didn't make sound. The front door stood slightly open, a sliver of darkness beyond. I knocked. Nothing. Left the groceries on the mat and turned to leave. But the wind, if you could call it that, slammed the door open with a long, moaning creak. Inside, it was pitch black. I raised my phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam caught furniture under white sheets, sagging from age. Wallpaper curled like dried skin. The floorboards groaned beneath my boots, loud in the dead air. I should have left. But something was pulling at me, like a rope hooked to my ribs. "Delivery!" I called, voice shaking. No reply. Then my light caught something on the ground. A photograph. I bent down and picked it up. It was faded, water damaged, but unmistakable. Emma, sitting on a couch, smiling at the camera, my arm around her. A photo I never took, one I'd never seen. Beneath it, another. Me, asleep in my van. Last night, dirt on my boots, eyes half open. I dropped them. The door slammed shut behind me. I ran to it, locked, no handle on the inside. My flashlight flickered. Then I saw her, at the end of the hallway, a woman, or the shape of one, thin, pale, long dark hair. Her hands hung limp at her sides. No face I could see, but I didn't need to. I knew. "Emma," I whispered. She didn't move. I stepped forward. The hallway stretched impossibly long. My legs trembled. Every step echoed like I was walking through a cathedral. Doors lined the hall, more than could fit in a house this size. I opened one. Inside was my old apartment, Emma's perfume still hanging in the air, the record player spinning something slow and warped. I shut it, opened another. My childhood bedroom, another. A funeral home, casket closed, each door a memory, each one more wrong than the last. Then I opened one and saw myself, standing in the van, staring back. I screamed, slammed it shut, turned, and the woman was gone. I ran, no direction, just ran. Every door I opened led somewhere worse. Blood on tile, shadows writhing behind curtains, a room full of whispering mouths, no faces. Finally, I found a back door and threw it open. Morning light blinded me. I stumbled through tall grass, heart jackhammering. When I looked back, the house was gone. Only a foundation remained, broken stone and weeds, nothing else, just the wind, and the sound of my own name whispering from the trees. I drove until the trees gave way to asphalt and the world remembered how to be normal. Except I wasn't. Not anymore. I didn't go home that night. I parked in the back of a diner that never closed, sat in the lot until sunrise with the engine idling and the windows fogged. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, just stared at the GPS like it might accuse me of something. The house had vanished, but the fear hadn't. That morning, I called in sick for the first time in years, told dispatch I had the flu. Maybe I did. It felt like something had infected me, some slow blooming dread that had taken root in my lungs. I couldn't breathe right without glancing over my shoulder. I went to the public library. They still had old property maps archived on microfilm. The building creaked like it had secrets, and the fluorescents buzzed like flies. I found Winterbell Lane, or what was left of it. A fire in 1976. A family of 3. No survivors. Electrical short, they said. But whispers mentioned something else. A disappearance. A daughter who wasn't found among the remains. Her name? Emmeline Harrow. My hands went cold. Harrow. like the woman in the cottage, the one with the same face in every photo. I looked deeper, newspaper clippings, scribbled notations, a few blurred photos charred at the corners. One showed a young girl, dark hair, standing beside a mailbox on a dirt road. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The same road. My road. I printed everything I could find, drove straight to the lot where the house had vanished. It looked different by daylight. Just grass and old stone, nothing more. No wind, no sound. As if the world was pretending it had never happened, but I knew better. Something was still there. I walked the perimeter. No one else around. I half expected the foundation to swallow me whole. Instead, I found the locket. Emma's locket, half buried in the dirt where the door should have been. I picked it up with shaking fingers. It opened easily. Inside, 2 photos. One of Emma, one of me. But neither was right. In hers, her eyes were gone. Just empty, smudged sockets. In mine, my mouth was stitched shut. Not photoshopped, real. Paper-thin threads sewn across my lips. I dropped it, staggered back. And then I heard her. Daniel. A whisper, no longer distant. Right behind me. I turned. Nothing. Fog rolled in from nowhere. Heavy, choking. The air warped, thick as syrup. The trees twisted taller. The sun dimmed. I wasn't alone. Shapes moved in the mist. Figures half-formed. They circled, whispering nonsense that sounded almost like names. And then she stepped through. Not Emma. Not exactly. Her shape, her voice, her smile, all bent wrong. Eyes too wide, too black. Fingers too long. Her voice came in layers, overlapping tones, like multiple mouths speaking through one throat. "You stayed too long," she said. "Now we're the same." I backed away. "You're not her." "I was what you needed, something to fill the space she left. Isn't that what you wanted?" Behind her, the mist boiled. Doors opened and slammed shut in the fog. Faces appeared behind glass, mine, Emma's, others I didn't recognize, all screaming. "You let me in," she whispered. "Every time you looked for her on the road, every time you listened for her voice." She reached toward me. Her hand passed through my chest. I felt it like ice, like grief made real. Memories flooded back, real and false. Kissing Emma beneath a street lamp, seeing her smile from the window of a house that never existed, delivering groceries to a woman already dead. It wasn't about Emma. It was about the echo of her, the hollow she left behind, and something hungry had found it. "No more," I said. "You're not real." The fog thickened, screamed, and then I ran. I don't remember how I escaped. Just flashes, branches clawing at my arms, roots snagging my boots, the sound of my own breath like a freight train in my skull. I reached the van, fired it up. Tires spun mud. The fog chased me to the edge of the road, then stopped, like it had rules or boundaries. As I pulled away, I looked back one last time. She stood at the edge of the mist, watching, smiling with someone else's mouth, waiting, always waiting. I didn't go back to the depot. I didn't answer calls, didn't check messages. I drove until the clouds broke, until the sun crawled up and touched the horizon with dull gold, like it had forgotten how to shine. I should have felt safe. I didn't, because something inside me had changed. That morning, I drove past familiar streets with unfamiliar eyes. The houses looked the same, but wrong, like painted sets waiting to fall. People moved behind windows like marionettes. I couldn't be sure any of it was real anymore. At the next gas station, I washed my face in the restroom sink and stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. My eyes looked older. There were scratches on my neck I didn't remember getting. Mud on the back of my shirt. My reflection moved just a little too slow. I told myself it was over, that the fog couldn't follow me past the trees, that it was just that place, that road, that night. But the locket was still in my coat pocket. I hadn't picked it up again. I swear I hadn't. But there it was, cold and closed, pressing against my ribs like a second heartbeat. I left town before noon. Didn't tell anyone, didn't pack much, just drove west, toward a place with wider roads and brighter skies, somewhere I could forget. The further I got, the more distance I tried to put between myself and what happened, the more it crept in through cracks I didn't know I had, dreams that didn't belong to me, music on the radio that shifted mid-song into whispers. One night, in a motel off Route 16, I dreamed of Emma, not the twisted version, the real her, smiling, happy, standing by a river, holding out her hand. And when I took it, she said, "You left something behind." I woke up with the locket in my palm. I hadn't touched it since the woods. I tossed it in the trash, checked out before sunrise, drove harder. Days passed, maybe weeks. Time doesn't feel the same now. I tried picking up odd jobs, but none stuck. People said I looked too pale, too distracted. One woman asked if I was mourning someone. I told her no, but maybe I am. I don't drive delivery routes anymore. Can't. I tried once, borrowed a van, signed up for a small-town grocery service in Oregon. First night, first stop, I saw her reflection in the passenger mirror, just for a blink. That was enough. I left the keys on the dash and walked until I forgot how long I'd been walking. Eventually, I found a job sweeping floors at a car wash outside Denver. Nights only, no routes, no houses, no woods. But every now and then, just past 3 a.m., I hear something over the roar of the pressure hoses. A voice. My name. Sometimes it sounds like her, sometimes it doesn't. I try not to look toward the road, but I always do. And sometimes, just sometimes, I see someone standing under the flickering sign at the edge of the lot, waiting, watching. A silhouette with 2 long arms and no visible face. The police found my old van weeks after I left, parked at the edge of an overgrown trailhead. The groceries inside had spoiled. The driver's seat was empty. But in the glove box, they found a photo. Emma and me, standing in front of a house that doesn't exist anymore. We're smiling, eyes wide, like we know something we shouldn't. The back of the photo had one word scribbled in shaky handwriting. Again. I don't know how it ends. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the roads don't lead out. Maybe they lead in. And maybe the worst part isn't being haunted. Maybe it's knowing you were never really alone in that van to begin with. Because when I drive now, just to clear my head, no destination, I always check the mirror. And more often than not, there's someone in the back seat, waiting for the next delivery, waiting for me.